Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's true story is one of the most unbelievable acts of family deception I've ever encountered. It centres around a casual question at a family dinner. Did you enjoy the gift I sent you last year? The answer exposed a shocking level of theft and favouritism. This is about being the unloved child and how I finally found justice. Let's get into the story. During an evening meal, my grandfather asked, "Did the new vehicle I gifted you last year meet your expectations?" I responded that I hadn't received any car at all. My parents instantly froze, and the devastating truth was finally revealed. My name is Alex. I'm 23 years old, and for as long as I can recall, I was consistently the child my parents preferred to keep at a distance. This isn't one of those explosive tales of physical abuse or abandonment. It's far more insidious. It's the narrative of a household that collectively decided I simply didn't warrant their attention or affection. My mother Clara and father David were perpetually transparent about their favourite. My younger sister Beth, who is 2 years my junior, was the unchallenged darling of the household. She was the recipient of the premium toys every holiday. She was the one who wore brand new, expensive clothing. She was the one who received effusive praise and encouragement, even when her academic results were merely average. Conversely, I could arrive home with a certificate for taking first place in a regional science competition and receive nothing more than a lukewarm, "That's acceptable, but don't become arrogant about it." I matured constantly being measured against my sister. "Observe how naturally warm Beth is," my mother would comment when I attempted to show her affection. "See how engaging and witty she is," my father would add, whenever I tried to share a joke or an interesting anecdote. It was as though I were a badly executed prototype of the offspring they truly desired. When I completed high school with a 92% average and earned acceptance letters from 3 distinct universities, my parents barely glanced up from the television screen. "Higher education is incredibly costly, Alex," my mother stated without making eye contact. "Besides, Beth will require our financial backing when it's her turn. She possesses a very promising future." At the age of 18, while my sister was given a brand new top-of-the-line laptop to prepare for university applications, I commenced employment at a consumer electronics outlet in the local shopping plaza. It wasn't the career I dreamed of, but the income was enough to make me self-sufficient. I organised merchandise, assisted customers, and occasionally secured significant sales that earned me valuable extra commission. The work was exhausting, especially on Saturdays and Sundays when the plaza was packed. I would return home with aching feet and dry, rough hands from handling countless products. Yet there was a deep sense of self-respect in it. I was independently building my life without relying on anyone. Meanwhile, Beth maintained her pampered existence. At 20, she had never held a job. She spent her afternoons at high-end fitness clubs, went to brunch with friends at pricey eateries, and always had money available for any purchase she desired. My parents rationalised this by claiming she was merely preparing for the job market and was still too young to handle adult responsibilities. What baffled me was the origin of all this funding. My father worked as a senior accountant for a small firm, and my mother gave private Spanish lessons a few evenings a week. It seemed insufficient to sustain their opulent lifestyle, particularly given Beth's exorbitant expenditures. The answer emerged when I turned 19. My maternal grandfather, Arthur, called to speak with me. He had always been different from my parents. Throughout my childhood, he would take me fishing in the stream near his cottage, instruct me on repairing engines in his workshop, and always listen intently when I spoke about my goals and ambitions. "Alex, my boy," he said during that call, "I'm relocating to Madrid. I've accepted a lucrative job offer there, and I believe a change of scenery will be beneficial for me." I felt sad, but I understood. He had lost his wife 2 years prior and genuinely needed a fresh start. "But don't worry," he continued. "I will continue to provide for the family from overseas. I intend to transfer funds every month to assist all of you. I want you to be able to pursue your education and seize the opportunities you deserve." Following his departure, the atmosphere at home visibly improved. My parents dramatically reduced their complaints about bills. Beth began appearing in even more expensive designer attire, and they even commissioned a complete remodel of the kitchen. When I asked about grandfather Arthur's contributions, my mother explained that he sent a fixed sum monthly to cover overall household expenses. I didn't press the issue much. After all, I had my job and could manage fine independently. Yet sometimes I questioned whether some of that money shouldn't have been directed toward me, since my grandfather had specifically mentioned my education. Communication with my grandfather became intermittent. He would phone occasionally, always asking about my well-being, whether I was finding time to study, or if I needed anything. I consistently assured him that everything was fine, that I was working and supporting myself. He sounded proud but also concerned. "You've always been a remarkable young man, Alex," he would tell me. "You have an inherent goodness and a drive that is rare. Never let anyone make you doubt your own worth." These assurances sustained me during rough patches, particularly when I came home exhausted from work and overheard my family making disparaging remarks about my low-level retail job or my supposed lack of ambition. At least one person in the world still believed in me. On my 23rd birthday, I was surprised to find a small cake sitting on the kitchen counter when I arrived home from my shift. It was nothing fancy, one of those generic grocery store cakes with sugary icing. But it was there. My parents and Beth sang the birthday song, with the lifeless enthusiasm of people performing a mundane chore. "It's from Grandfather Arthur," my mother clarified. "He requested we arrange a small celebration for you." I was touched. Even from afar, my grandfather had remembered me. It was more effort than my own immediate family typically made. We ate the cake in almost complete silence, each person absorbed in their own thoughts, and then everyone returned to their usual routines. But in the subsequent weeks, I started noticing peculiar changes. My parents began displaying even more wealth. My mother showed up with a prestigious leather handbag that cost more than my entire monthly earnings. My father purchased a luxury wristwatch that I'd seen in a jewellery store window for an astronomical price. And Beth became unbearable with her custom-made clothing and trainers that cost a fortune. One day, I overheard my mother on the phone discussing a planned holiday. "It will only be the three of us," she was saying. "A brief escape to relax by the ocean. Everything is already reserved." When I learned about the trip, I discovered I wasn't invited. "There isn't sufficient space for 4 people in the suite," my father explained. "And you have to be at work anyway, don't you?" They spent a full 7 days at a 5-star exclusive resort, posting image after image on social media of gourmet meals, exotic cocktails, and moments of blissful family bonding. I stayed home, working my regular shifts, completely puzzled about the origin of all this extra money. Could Grandfather Arthur be sending even more funds? Perhaps he had secured a better position in Madrid, or inherited a substantial sum. I tried to dismiss the thought, but the curiosity was consuming me. The year crawled by slowly. My routine remained unchanged. Work, home, work, home. Occasionally, I would meet up with co-workers for a drink, but generally my social interactions were minimal. I didn't have the money for the expensive activities my family engaged in, and I'd grown somewhat accustomed to the solitude. Beth continued to avoid employment, living her princess life. My parents persisted in treating me like a drain on their resources, and I continued trying to prove my worth, despite the fact that no one seemed to notice. As my 24th birthday approached, I wasn't anticipating anything significant. Perhaps another inexpensive cake, perhaps nothing at all. But then, 3 days before the date, my mobile phone rang. "Alex, my boy, how are things?" It was Grandfather Arthur's familiar warm voice, which I hadn't heard in many months. "Grandfather, what an amazing surprise. I'm fine, working diligently." "Excellent, that's great. Listen, I have, exciting news for you. I'll be flying back to our country next week. I want to be there for your birthday." My heart pounded. I hadn't seen my grandfather in 3 years, and now he was returning specifically for me. "We'll reserve a table at the city's finest restaurant," he continued. "Invite your parents and Beth. It will be a true family celebration." I ended the call with a genuine smile that hadn't graced my face in a very long time. Finally, the one person who truly cared about me would be here. I could hardly wait to be reunited with Grandfather Arthur. When I informed my family about his impending visit, their reactions were strange. My parents exchanged rapid, nervous glances, and Beth was unusually quiet. "That's wonderful," my mother said, but her tone was obviously strained. "It will be good to see Grandfather Arthur again." I couldn't understand why they seemed so agitated. After all, Grandfather Arthur was the primary benefactor of their current lifestyle. Shouldn't they be eager for his return? But I didn't dwell on it. I was too excited, imagining what it would feel like to see the only person who had ever truly believed in me. The day finally arrived. Grandfather Arthur appeared at the front entrance mid-afternoon, with that broad, loving smile I remembered from my childhood. He was leaner, his hair was noticeably whiter, but he possessed the same irresistible vitality as ever. "My boy," he said, pulling me into a powerful embrace. "Look how much you've grown. You're a proper adult now." I felt an emotional warmth I hadn't experienced in years. Here was someone genuinely delighted to see me, who hugged me as if I were the most valuable person in the world. My parents greeted Grandfather Arthur with forced cheerfulness, and Beth barely glanced up from her phone. "All right, family," my grandfather announced, clapping his hands together. "Today is for celebration. I've booked a table at the Summit Bistro." My eyes widened in shock. The Summit Bistro was the most prestigious and expensive restaurant in the entire city, the kind of establishment where a single entree cost more than I earned in a full day of work. During the ride to the restaurant, my grandfather was relentless in his questioning. He wanted to know how my job was progressing, if I felt happy, and what my future ambitions were. It was the first time in years that someone had demonstrated genuine interest in my personal life. "I am so proud of you, Alex," he said, placing a warm hand on my shoulder. "Working tirelessly since 18, managing your own expenses, that shows immense integrity." From the rear seat, I heard Beth mumble, "Working at a retail store isn't exactly impressive, grandfather." My father let out a small, uncomfortable laugh, and my mother sighed as if exasperated. The restaurant was even more luxurious than I had imagined. Waiters in pristine uniforms, tables draped in fine linen, and crystal glassware that glittered in the soft light of the candles. Felt entirely out of place in my plain shirt and jeans, but my grandfather quickly reassured me. "You look absolutely perfect, my boy. True elegance comes from within." The dinner was a surreal experience. The food was magnificent, each plate an artistic creation. My grandfather ordered an expensive vintage wine and made sure to include me in every single toast. For the first time in my life, I felt genuinely honoured and celebrated. However, my immediate family was behaving very oddly. My parents spoke little and appeared visibly anxious whenever my grandfather directed a question toward me. Beth was glued to her phone the entire time, clearly bored by the occasion. When they did interject, they invariably made derogatory comments about me. "Another year spent at the mall, correct, Alex?" Beth said with that distinct tone of superiority I knew so well. "When are you going to secure a proper career?" My mother smirked. "Yes, at your age, you should definitely demonstrate more drive." I felt my cheeks flush with shame and a rush of anger, but my grandfather instantly sprang to my defence. "Drive? This young man has been gainfully employed since he was 18. While others his age are carelessly depleting their parents' funds, he is building his independence. That is far beyond mere ambition. It is dignity." The tension at the table was thick and palpable. My parents averted their eyes and Beth finally set her phone aside. Dessert arrived. A decadent chocolate mousse that cost more than I spent on lunch for an entire week. It was at that moment that my grandfather looked at me with his loving smile and asked the question that shattered everything. "By the way, Alex, tell me, how did you find the gift I sent you last year?" I was momentarily confused. "The gift?" "Yes, your birthday present. Did you enjoy it?" I thought of the inexpensive cake my parents had purchased. "Oh yes, thank you for the cake, grandfather. That was extremely thoughtful of you." My grandfather's smile vanished. He frowned as if something was fundamentally incorrect. "Cake? What cake are you referring to?" "The cake you asked them to purchase for my birthday," I clarified, a cold knot forming in my stomach. "Alex, I did not instruct them to purchase any cake," he stated, looking directly at my parents. "What exactly is going on here?" My mother attempted to intervene. "Dad, perhaps there's been some slight miscommunication." "No," my grandfather said, raising his hand to silence her. "No miscommunication. Alex, did you not receive the car I sent you?" The world seemed to stop spinning. "Car? What car?" "The red sedan I bought and had delivered directly to your home on your birthday. A brand new vehicle with all the ownership documents registered in your name." I felt the floor drop out from under me. I received no car, grandfather, just the cake." The silence hanging over the table was deafening. My parents looked ghostly pale. and Beth appeared to have stopped breathing. Entirely. My grandfather examined each of them, and I watched his expression change from bewildered confusion to a cold, frightening rage I had never witnessed before. "Where?" he demanded, articulating each word with menacing calm. "Is the car I purchased for my grandson?" My parents began to stammer, scrambling to invent explanations. My mother cited supposed logistical problems. My father blamed the delivery company. But my grandfather was not easily deceived. He had built an empire from the ground up. He knew a lie when he heard one. "I demand the truth," he insisted, slamming his hand onto the table so forcefully that the silverware rattled. Now, the entire restaurant was staring openly at our table. Other patrons whispered amongst themselves, discreetly pointing, but I was oblivious. I was in complete shock. A car. My grandfather had bought me a car. It was my mother who finally broke. With a shaky voice, she confessed, We sold the car." "Sold it?" I yelled, losing all control. "You sold my car." "We desperately required the funds," my father said, attempting to justify their actions. Things were tight, and Beth was requiring what? I exploded. More designer clothing, more expensive trainers, more luxury holidays? My grandfather was absolutely furious. "You took the gift I bought specifically for Alex and sold it to finance Beth's frivolous luxuries." "It wasn't only for Beth," my mother tried to defend herself. "It was for the whole family. We took that holiday, purchased things we needed." "Lies!" I shouted. "I was not included on the trip. I never saw a single cent of that money. You spent it all entirely on yourselves." My grandfather stood up from his chair. 32,000 euros, he stated, his voice sharp and precise. "That is the valuation of the car. 32,000 euros that I painstakingly saved working in Madrid to give a decent present to my grandson, and you liquidated it to purchase needless extravagance." The figure stunned me further. 32,000 euros, more than I earned in 2 full years working at the retail store, and they had sold it without a second thought. "Dad, please, allow me to explain," my mother pleaded. But my grandfather refused to listen. "There is no viable explanation," he declared. "You violated my trust. You stole from my grandson, and I am convinced this is not the first instance." He looked at me with an expression of profound sorrow. "Alex, my boy, there is something more I must tell you. That car was not the only gift I sent for you." My heart pounded. "What do you mean?" "For the last 3 years, every single month, I transferred money designated specifically for you. For your studies, for your needs, so you could have proper opportunities. I wired it to your parents because I genuinely believed they would pass it on. But now I understand you never received any of it." I stared at my parents with a paralysing mixture of horror and boiling rage. "How many years?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling. 3 years, my grandfather confirmed. 600 euros per month, separate from the household expenses. Money that was legitimately yours. I quickly calculated the sum. 600 euros a month for 3 years, more than 20,000 euros. Added to the 32,000 from the car, they had robbed me of over 50,000 euros. "You are criminals," I stated with a cold certainty that surprised even myself. "Criminals who steal from their own family." Beth finally spoke, her voice defensive. "Alex, don't be so overly dramatic. That money helped our entire household." "It helped you," I corrected her fiercely. "It helped pay for your clothes, your trainers, your social outings. I never saw a single cent. I worked like a dog while you lived like royalty, using money that belonged to me." My grandfather placed his hand back on my shoulder. "Alex, you are not spending one more day in that house. You are coming with me to Madrid. There you will receive the opportunities you have earned and deserve." I didn't hesitate for a second. "When?" "Now, today. We will collect your possessions and head to the airport." My parents instantly descended into panic. "Dad, you can't be serious," my mother cried. "He is our son." "Son?" My grandfather laughed bitterly. "You treated this boy like a stranger his entire life. You humiliated him. You robbed him. You disrespected him. And now you dare to speak of son." He turned to me. "The choice is entirely yours, Alex. You can remain here and continue to be treated like dirt, or you can come with me and start the life you have always deserved." I looked at my family. My parents were desperate, not out of love, but terrified of losing the financial lifeline my grandfather provided. Beth looked utterly stunned, finally grasping that her princess existence might be over. "I'm leaving," I announced, standing up from the table. "I have absolutely nothing left here." My grandfather smiled for the first time since the truth was revealed. "Then let's go, my boy. Your new life begins right now." As we exited the restaurant, leaving my disgraced family stranded at the table with the astronomical bill, I felt a release I hadn't experienced in years. Finally, someone had recognised the truth. Finally, I had a chance to be truly valued. "Grandfather," I said as we walked toward the vehicle, "thank you for having faith in me." "I always had faith," he replied, "and now you will discover what it is like to have a genuine family." The journey to Madrid was an absolute dream. My grandfather had purchased first-class tickets, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly nurtured. During the flight, he explained the new life that was awaiting me. "I own a successful financial consulting firm in Lisbon," he explained. "I started small, but it has expanded significantly in recent years. You will work alongside me. You will learn the business. You have a sinunse, natural aptitude for this. You always did." When we arrived in Lisbon, I was astonished by his residence. It was a stately mansion in an affluent district, boasting immaculate landscaping and a breathtaking view of the city. But what captured my attention most was the spacious garage. "Pick one," he said, gesturing toward a line of sports cars. "The one that was meant to be yours is no longer here, but any of these can become yours." There was a gleaming silver sports car, a polished black luxury sedan, and tucked in the corner, a vibrant red sports convertible that took my breath away. "That one," I said, pointing to the convertible. "Excellent selection," my grandfather laughed. "You possess good taste." During the first few days, I still couldn't process the magnitude of the change. I had a bedroom larger than my parents' entire living room, a wardrobe overflowing with clothes my grandfather had custom ordered. And most importantly, I had respect. My grandfather consulted me on major company decisions, valued my viewpoints, and treated me as an equal partner. The work at the consulting firm was demanding, but highly gratifying. I handled important clients, performed complex data analysis, and felt that I was finally utilising my full potential. My income was 10 times greater than what I had earned at the mall. And for the first time in my life, I had the freedom to afford anything I desired. But the most significant change was the feeling of belonging. My grandfather introduced me to business associates as my grandson, the future of the company. He was profoundly proud of me, and that changed everything. During the initial months, my phone constantly vibrated. They were calls originating from my home country, from my parents and Beth. I ignored every single one. I had absolutely nothing to discuss with them. They had robbed me, humiliated me, and treated me like trash for years. Now that they no longer had access to my grandfather's money, they suddenly wanted to communicate. My grandfather confirmed that he had cut off all financial support the day after our departure. "They made their own mess," he said simply. "Now they must deal with the consequences." 6 months later, my curiosity finally won out. One evening, after a particularly successful day at work, I decided to answer one of the incoming calls. It was my mother. "Alex, thank God, are you all right? We were sick with worry." I almost burst out laughing. "Worried? What do you want?" "We need to speak, son. You are our family. We miss you here." Family. I repeated the word as if it were contaminated. Where was that family when I desperately needed you? Where was that family when you liquidated my car to pay for Beth's pampered existence? "Alex, please allow me to explain. We are facing severe difficulties. Without your grandfather's assistance, things have become incredibly tough. We are facing eviction next week." Now I truly laughed. "And what possible bearing does that have on me? You are our son. You have a moral obligation to assist us." "Obligation? What obligation do I owe you? You treated me like dirt my entire life. Now you expect me to suddenly become the dutiful son who rescues the family." I heard my mother beginning to cry. "Please, Alex, we know we made unforgivable mistakes, but we are your family. You cannot abandon us to homelessness." "You abandoned me emotionally my entire life," I countered. "Now experience the literal consequence of that. The difference is that now I have a choice, and I choose to have nothing to do with you." "But we are your parents." Genuine parents don't do what you did. Genuine parents do not steal from their children. Genuine parents do not humiliate their children to elevate others. There was a lengthy silence. Then my mother whispered, "What if we offer you our sincere apologies?" An apology cannot restore the years of profound humiliation. An apology cannot bring back the money you stole. An apology cannot erase the pain you inflicted. So you are genuinely going to leave us destitute on the streets? I am not the one abandoning you. It was your choices that led you to this predicament. You could have utilised grandfather's money responsibly. You could have treated me as a member of the family. You could have treated me with fundamental respect. But you chose to humiliate and steal. Now face the consequences. My father tried one final desperate argument. And Beth, she is not responsible for any of this. Not responsible? I laughed with sheer contempt. She actively participated in every act of humiliation. She mocked me, called me a failure, and benefited from every euro of the money that was rightfully mine. She is just as culpable as both of you. But she is your sister. A sister is someone who supports you, who stands by your side. Beth was never my sister. She was merely a stranger who occupied the same dwelling. I heard Beth shriek in the background. I always despised you anyway. You were always a drain on this family. Perfect, I said calmly. Finally, the truth is out. Thank you for confirming everything I always suspected. My mother returned to the phone, hysterically sobbing. Alex, please. We are your family. You cannot abandon us like this. You abandoned me first, I replied. The difference is that now I hold the choice, and I choose to sever all the ties with you. My grandfather, who had listened to a portion of the conversation, placed his hand on my shoulder. How do you feel? Free, I replied, and it was the absolute truth. For the first time in my life, I felt completely liberated. In the weeks that followed, my grandfather kept me updated on the situation in my home country. The family had been evicted and was residing in a tiny, unsafe flat in a dangerous district. My father had been forced to take a job at a processing plant, earning the minimum wage. My mother was cleaning homes to supplement their income. And Beth, who had never worked a day in her privileged life, had to accept a job serving coffee at a local cafe. They are paying the price for years of conceit, my grandfather observed. They always believed they were superior to everyone else, that they deserved a lavish life without putting in the work. I felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing they were finally confronting reality. It wasn't revenge, it was an act of justice. My new life in Lisbon flourished more every day. My grandfather taught me every aspect of the business, and I quickly discovered a natural aptitude for consulting. Within a year, I was already managing major client accounts and significantly contributing to the firm's profitability. I met wonderful people, formed genuine friendships, and even began dating a colleague from the company, Elena, who treated me with a warmth and respect I had never encountered before. You are an exceptional person, Alex, she would tell me. You possess an inner fortitude that is admirable. Sometimes I shared memories of my childhood with her, detailing how my family had treated me. She was horrified. How could parents treat their own child like that? It's unfathomable. Because they never truly saw me as their son, I would explain. I was merely an inconvenience they tolerated. 2 years after my departure, my phone rang once more. It was a number I didn't recognise, but when I answered, I heard my mother's voice again. Alex, it's me. Please don't hang up. How did you get this number? I asked. I hired a private investigator to track you down, Alex, please. I need to tell you something critical. Against my better judgment, I listened. Beth is severely ill. She has cancer. She requires expensive treatment, but we have absolutely no money. She could die. I felt a cold tightening in my chest, but not of pity. It was pure indignation. And what does that information have to do with me? She's your sister. Despite all the disagreement, she is family. No, she is not. She made that choice herself when she spent years publicly humiliating me. Alex, please. She is remorseful. She desperately wants to speak with you. I am not interested. How can you be so merciless? This is a matter of life and death. She had an entire lifetime to treat me like a brother. She consciously chose not to. Now, in her hour of need, she expects me to forget everything. But she is family. Family is someone who is by your side through every difficulty. Family is someone who genuinely supports you, loves you, and respects you. You were never my family. You were simply people who shared the same roof with me. I heard wrenching sobs coming through the line. Alex, I know we made terrible mistakes. We all made mistakes, but please don't allow your sister to die. She is not my sister, I repeated firmly. And even if she were, you taught me a harsh lesson. Family does not help family. After all, when I needed help, where were all of you? I hung up the phone and never answered calls from that country again. 3 years passed. My life in Lisbon was faultless. I had married Elena. We purchased a gorgeous apartment in the heart of the city, and I'd become a full partner in my grandfather's firm. We were prosperous, respected, and deeply happy. On a quiet Sunday, my grandfather called me to talk. Alex, I have some news for you. I received a call from your former country yesterday. My stomach tensed. About what? Beth passed away last week. Cancer. I felt nothing at all. Neither relief nor grief, just a neutral emptiness. And how are they? Devastated. Your father suffered a heart attack following the funeral and is currently hospitalised. Your mother is completely alone with no financial resources for anything. I was silent for a long moment. Do you feel anything, Alex? My grandfather asked gently. No, I replied honestly. Should I? There is no right or wrong response here, Alex. They made their choices. You have made yours. They could have had a wonderful life if they had treated me with decency. They could have used the money I sent wisely. They could have cultivated a loving home environment, but they chose the path of humiliation and open favouritism. My grandfather nodded slowly. And now they are bearing the painful cost. I feel no regret, I stated. I feel that justice has finally been served. That evening I told Elena everything. She embraced me tightly. You did the honourable thing, she said. Family is not defined by shared DNA. Family is defined by who loves you, respects you, and remains by your side. Your grandfather is your family. I am your family. She was right. I looked around. My beautiful home, my incredible wife, my grandfather who loved me unconditionally, my successful company. And I realised I had found my true family, people who genuinely valued me, who believed in me, and who treated me with affection and respect. That is the true meaning of family. My mother attempted to contact me a few more times over the years, always with a fresh tragedy, always asking for financial assistance. I never responded. I had closed that painful chapter of my life permanently. Today at 28, I am a fulfilled man. I lead a prosperous company, have a family that loves me, and possess genuine friends. I learned that sometimes to achieve happiness, you must possess the courage to abandon toxic individuals, even those who share your blood. My grandfather, Arthur, rescued me, not just financially, but emotionally. He showed me what true love feels like, what it is to have someone genuinely proud of you, and what it is like to be part of a real family. And as for my biological family, well, they perfectly reaped what they had sown. For many years they sowed contempt, humiliation, and selfishness. It was only natural that they would harvest loneliness, hardship, and profound regret. I feel no remorse. I feel overwhelming gratitude for having found the strength to escape that poisonous situation and construct a life founded on genuine love and mutual respect. Sometimes the most beneficial action you can take for yourself is to find the courage to walk away from those who don't deserve you, even if they are your family. Because true family is a conscious choice, not a binding obligation. And I chose wisely. That is an absolute mic drop of a story. I hope it serves as a powerful reminder that you are never obligated to accept toxic behaviour, regardless of who it comes from. For me, the real victory wasn't the car or the money. It was the freedom and the unconditional love I found with grandfather Arthur and Elena. The biggest gift you can give yourself is the courage to walk away. Let me know what you thought of Alex's journey in the comments below. Hit that like button if this script resonated with you, and subscribe for more deep dives into the drama of real life. I'll catch you all next time.